What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome to the Etoft21sports Show for December 6th. How is everyone doing? I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. We have a great show for you planned today. My boy, Brian, a.k.a. Beho from Better Than Vegas, the director of programming. He's going to be stopping by. Him and I are going to talk some NFL. We're going to give you our thoughts about Week 13 and tell you what bets to lock in for Week 14. Also, my boy Gino is going to be telling you what horse racing bet to lock in tomorrow for Tampa Bay Downs. But of course, I want to thank our sponsor, Pointsbet. Looking for a dependable sports bet book? Go to Pointsbet, download the app, use promo code ETOFT21, that's ETOFT21 on your initial deposit, and get a 100% deposit match up to $2K. I love the Pointsbet app. One of the books I use the most. If you are in a legal stake, make sure you use that. Now, let's shift our attention over to horse racing and see what bet Gino has a cooking for us tomorrow.
Best bet for this week comes on Wednesday at Tampa Bay Downs. Let's take a look at race number 5. Like always, we're looking at the Daily Racing Form past performances. I'm familiar with one of the horses in here to the outside named Heart Attack. This is a 12-time winner. This is an 8-year-old who has run in a lot of races through the years. This is a hard-knocking claimer who's earned $225,000 the hard way. A really nice 2022. He's won 7 races this year. He was at Canterbury, Lone Star, Sam Houston. Prior to that, that's where I got familiar with this runner over the last couple years, some of the good work that he did at Sam Houston. He was in Louisiana prior to that. But what's nice about him, he's honest. He can sit back and he can make one late run, and he knows how to win races. I'm going to give him a big shot in here because I think there's going to be a lot of speed to run at. I'm looking at 3 or 4 that should set things up. Midday Image is pretty quick. I think Obi-Wan stretching out from sprint races will also be forwardly placed. And Montauk Summer looks like they want to be on the front end too. I think 2 of them could be pushing the pace. It should set up nicely for the Win Machine, Heart Attack. This guy knows where the wire is. He's 9-2 on the morning line. Anything around 7-2 will play him on the win wager. Best of luck.
Guys, make sure you like that bet in. My boy Gino knows his stuff. I am going to be with Gino on his podcast, which comes out Friday morning. Him and I go through every game of the NFL, and then him and I are going to be on Better Than Vegas's live stream for the Army-Navy game this Friday, and then Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. Gino, myself, Kyle, aka the DFS Bachelor, we are on BTV's show 4th and Inches, breaking down the NFL slate. And yes, I did shave my known to shave November beard. It was getting a little rusty. I had some Santa Claus comments. I'm getting a little mature in life, so I needed to take care of that. So without further ado, let's welcome the man, the myth, the legend, Brian, aka Beho, to the show. Brian, how you doing today, my man?
I'm doing good. I'm glad you brought that up because we haven't talked in a few weeks, and it was getting very Santa Claus-ish. Like I was wondering if like a mall Santa job was going on or what was up.
I mean, it's one of those things. You know, me and a group of friends, we do it like every single year, and you know, I'm getting a little older in life, so you know, I'm starting to have a little grays show. It's getting a little. It's not as perky as it used to be, let's say.
I know. I catch a gray every now and then and just go, oh, Lord, it's all downhill from here, right?
Oh, but you know what? I am going gray in the beard, but I can at least say I'm not going bald yet.
Yeah.
You know, I do have a full set of hair, so at least I have that. For those tuning in for the first time, this is basically how the show works. Brian and I we're each going to give a couple takeaways, 3 each from week 13, and then we're going to shift our attention to betting. We're going to tell you 3 bets we're looking to lock in for week 14. But one of the big news is Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be out for a while. He's not looking like he's going to be out for the season. We have a question from Raj. Will the Niners sign a quarterback, or will they roll with Iowa State, Mr. October in Iowa State, Brock Purdy? What do you think, Brian?
I mean, they have to roll with him, right? Who is there to sign? I mean, if they wanted Baker, they had their shot today. Nobody put in a claim for him, so you know, except for the Rams, obviously. The Rams put their only claim in, so I think Baker thought he was going to go to San Francisco, but he ends up with 3-9 Rams. And yeah, I think you got to ride it out, don't you? I mean, unless there's who's going to be able to come in and learn a playbook and do any better than that, right?
I was thinking about it. The only person that I could think of would be Ryan Fitzgerald. Fitzpat. Yeah.
Fitzmagic.
That's the only one I could think of because I was going through it this morning. There's no way you're going after Phillip Rivers.
I'd almost agree with you there, but like I think he's got a pretty little sweet gig on that Thursday night thing. And let's be honest, like if you've seen him on that Thursday night show, he doesn't look like he's been staying in too good a shape. So I don't know how football.
I would say now that one of my friends is neighbors with him in Arizona, and he is living his best life. I will just say that he is.
Like the last time I saw like him put out a tweet like where he wasn't doing some business type thing, he was just chugging beers in Buffalo. So
yeah,
good for him.
Bobby's throwing out a bold prediction: Lions could make the playoffs. Telling you guys now, pretty interesting take.
I mean, you know that division better than I do. I mean, does it not feel like they're the oddest team in football right now? Because one week they'll throw up 30 and beat the brakes off somebody, and the next week they'll lose by 30. It's like, could they just put it together for a few weeks in a row, and they'd probably be right in the middle of it, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, they're 4-1. They lost to the Bills by one possession. I look at it like this. I really think that the worst thing that happened to them was the Giants and Commanders tie, just because now that team's going to be one game up on them, percentage points up on them.
Yeah.
And they held the tiebreaker over both those teams. Seattle beat them. Seattle holds a tiebreaker over them. So I think.
What's their schedule look like the rest of the way?
They have one of the easiest schedules remaining. Per Tankathon, easiest NFL schedules. I was looking at this.
Well, I know where the Bengals rank on that, and it ain't at the bottom. They go Vikings, Jets, Panthers, Bears, Packers. I mean,
looking at Detroit has the Vikings, the Jets, and then they have the Bears, Panthers, and Patriots. They have the 23rd easiest schedule remaining. That is doable, but I think this game this week is very big.
You got to win out, though, right? Like you got to
win out. You're gonna have to win out. You're gonna have to get a little.
I mean, it's possible, but it starts this week. I mean, you got to get this one out of the way this week, right?
So let's look at our takeaways. Brian, what is your first takeaway from?
Well, you know where I'm going for the first one, man. For those that don't know, I'm a gigantic Cincinnati Bengals fan. Obviously, huge win this week over the Chiefs. And, I'm going to say it now, and maybe this is a bold take. I think they're the best team in the AFC right now. I know the record doesn't indicate it, but I think they've got some excuses there. I think, Burrow missed the entire preseason. And I don't mean, he just didn't take snaps in games. He had the appendectomy. He missed the whole thing.
Yeah.
They retooled that entire offensive line, which also took no snaps as a group in the preseason. So, they start off 0-2, losing to the Steelers about killed me week one with as bad as they played, and they still almost won. But they've only given up I think 10 sacks in the past. I just saw the stat not too long before I got on, but 5 of those sacks came in one game. In the other 5 games or other 6 or 7 games, they gave up, 1 or 2 sacks, so 1 or less sacks a game. I think the Chiefs got them one time late in the game, like that 3rd and 4 right before the 2-minute warning. I don't know if they credited it a sack or not, but it seems like that O-line's getting it together. The run game's starting to work. We missed Jamar Chase. He's back. And one thing, and Eric, X's and O's better than I do, man. I rely on these guys, not only on ESPN, but there's a lot of really good guys that break down film on Twitter. And one thing, Dan Orlovsky is one of my favorites. I know he may not be one of your favorites for what he did as a quarterback, but I think he breaks down film and explains it well to someone like me who doesn't necessarily get all the X's and O's. And one thing he pointed out that Taylor and Callahan do for the Bengals is they just swap positions. Like, they're that talented with their skill position players. And he pointed out 2 plays in the Bengals game. One where they put the tight end out wide and put Tyler Boyd inside as the tight end, and basically said, okay, we're not looking at this tight end because he's covered by a corner and he's our backup tight end. But Tyler Boyd isn't going to be covered by very many linebackers. And it was a 3rd and 4 play. They got the ball out. They got Tyler Boyd. They got the first down. Later on, he talks about how the Bengals break late in the huddle if they're going to try something tricky. And they broke late in the huddle. Jamar Chase is lined up as the halfback. They snap the ball. You can see the Chiefs are just looking around like, where's the wide receiver? We see this halfback, but I don't have the halfback. I've got the receiver. Problem is, he was in Jamar Chase's spot. They hit him. Evans scores a touchdown that ends up being the game winner. So, they're a dangerous offense. I don't think their defense gets near enough credit. Now, I think you would agree with that. They're not, and I think that's because they don't have any superstars. Like, they don't have a Bosa that's going to get, 12 sacks a year, or somebody like Darrelle Revis back in the day where it was just a lockdown corner. But what that defensive coordinator is doing with the group he has, and they're all just playing good. There's no like glaring holes in it. They're really good in stopping teams in the red zone. And with their offense, if you're trading 7 for 3, you'll take it all day.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're playing great. I actually gave them out on here last week at 1,100 to like plus 1,100 to win the AFC, because I think Reader coming back just helps that defense, helps against the run. Reed chimes in. Bengals defense really good. They haven't allowed a 300-yard passer since week 8, which kind of piggybacks the point you're making.
2021.
That's really impressive. That is insanely impressive.
And that's with Eli Apple back there. And Eli Apple gets a bad rap, guys, but Eli Apple doesn't play bad every game. He may have a bad game here and there. He played excellent against the Chiefs. I think Mahomes ended up with 223 yards. It's his season low.
Now I'm sitting on, 11-1 Bengals. Sterling chimes in. I read somewhere that Burrow only has 1 turnover-worthy play in the last 2 months. Should we look at him as an MVP dark horse? I'm looking at the odds right now. He's 7 to about 8.5 to 1 right now to win it. If they're the top seed in the AFC, I think he has it.
Yeah, and it's funny. Blackjack and I had this exact conversation last night or I guess, was it last night? Was Sunday night last night? I'm losing track of days here. Sunday night we had the conversation, and it was like, nobody was talking about the Bengals going into this matchup, but now everybody's going to talk about Burrow being MVP, the Bengals being the best in the AFC, and I mean, the only other guy out there that you got to worry about, because they vote on this at the end of the regular season, correct?
Correct.
So, and that's what concerns me, because the Eagles have had a hell of a season. Jalen Hurts has played great. And I think it would take the Bengals getting the 1 seed, basically winning out, getting the 1 seed in the AFC to have a shot to beat Hurts if they drop a game or 2 between now and then. 7-8 to 1. I mean, if you want to pull the trigger, go ahead. I mean, he's going to have a shot. He's going to get votes.
Since he owns the Chiefs, can Cincy get back to the promised land and win it? You think they can win the Super Bowl this year?
Well, I mean, you know me, I'm a homer. Of course I do. I feel better about this team than I did last year's team, honestly. Yes. I mean, part of it's because I guess they hadn't done it in so long last year. But, like, I don't know, man. I just get the feel in this locker room that they're a real tight group. I mean, what they did last year, I mean, they beat the Raiders at home in the first round. They went on the road to Tennessee, won. They went to Arrowhead and won the AFC Championship, which, I mean, people say is the hardest place in the NFL to play. We're just a bad matchup for the Chiefs. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, if you look, Travis Kelce dominates everybody, and the Bengals usually give up a lot to tight ends. But for some reason, Travis Kelce just can't get the ball against us. And I'm hoping I'm not jinxing this in the future. But, I mean, so I think it's fair to say the top three of the AFC: Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, right? Like, you'd be shocked if it's not a combination of those three in the AFC Championship. Who wants to play Cincinnati in January?
Yeah, nobody. It is damn cold there, me being a Midwest boy. I think the number one point you made, and I hope that people understand, is Burrow had no preseason and with no line and everything. And I think like we're seeing him get sync with everything. The ball's coming out hand. And I mean, when you have two big physical wide receivers, that's tough to match up against for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, again, I mean, we all talk all the time about, packages and who's got the best position players. And Kyle and I were discussing a couple weeks ago, the DFS Bachelor, for those that follow him. And, he was talking about how great the 49ers skill positions were, including quarterback. And I'm like, well, and he's like, they're head and shoulders number one. I'm like, eh. And he's like, name one other. And I'm like, the Bengals. And he starts going through and he's like, you're right. They're really good. And I'm like, I mean, we were without Jamar Chase for 4 weeks. Did you see the team miss a beat? No.
Like, and I think that was really big for Burrow to be able to do it without Chase.
One thing about that too, and I told people it was going to be real interesting, because obviously when you've got Jamar Chase, he's a home run threat. Anytime he gets the ball, whether it's a 5-yard screen or a 50-yard pass downfield, he's got a chance to go to the house. T. Higgins, not as much. Tyler Boyd, not as much. So they kind of had to manipulate the ball down the field a little bit different than they normally do. And I was very interested to see how Burrow was going to be able to dink and dunk it down the field as opposed to hit a home run. I mean, he did great. And one other thing to point out about Burrow, when they were talking about the turnover-worthy plays, he's thrown some interceptions. Most of them are tipped balls or J.J. Watt or T.J. Watt making crazy athletic plays on the line. But if you watch Burrow in the pocket, think about how many times he's been sacked in the past 2 years. More than any quarterback, right?
Yeah.
How many fumbles does he have out of that?
Not that.
None, because he protects the ball. It's two hands on the ball. That's another thing Orlovsky pointed out. Watch Burrow in the pocket every time. It's two hands on the ball until it's time to let it go, and then it's gone every time. So, when you get into these playoff games, I mean, why did we beat the Chiefs? Because Kelsey turned the ball over. Now, I mean, Kelsey never fumbles, and I don't blame Kelsey for that. He had the ball protected. Pratt just got a good grip and ripped it out, but you don't want to turn it over in the playoffs, and Burrow doesn't do it. So
you guys are looking good.
A shot.
You guys are looking good. My first takeaway is the Finns should have kicked the field goal. They're down 6. It was 4th and 2. There was 6 minutes left. Purdy was in. The offense was kind of struggling. CMC wasn't in. It was Jordan Mason, who is basically their 4th string tailback. I just don't understand why they didn't kick the 3, cut it to 3, put a little scoreboard pressure on Purdy, on the 49ers, force them to get a drive, force them to get a first down, run out the clock. The wheels kind of fell off after that. And I look at it like this. That probably cost the Dolphins a home playoff game. And Miami in December is a tough play to play just because these northern teams aren't used to the heat. So I really think playoff picture-wise, that loss hurt the Dolphins. So
I think Miami needs a home playoff game to have a shot at winning as well. And, hey, credit to McDaniel again down there. Like, I like this kid. Like, and I think I can call him a kid. I think he's younger than I am. But we all knew going into this hire was going to be fabulous or a disaster. And I think it's been great so far. I think the relationship he has with Tua is awesome. I imagine he has that with a lot of his team. I think there was some video after that call where you can see him telling the players, like the player said something to him and he goes, no, it's my bad. Like he took full responsibility for that. And I appreciate that. I think they're staying out in California all week. That was the word before the game for some team building and stuff. It'll be interesting to see how they react against the Chargers. I think they got to win that game. But yeah, I think you're right. And, later on down the road in these takes, I'm going to tell you another team whose wheels fell off and why that is. And it ain't because they didn't kick a field goal.
Sterling asked, what are your thoughts about the Titans firing their GM?
AJ Brown got him fired, right?
Well, I look at it like this, like they couldn't afford to keep AJ Brown, so they did what they had to do. But with how good this team has been and how bad their drafts have been, you know what I mean? Like he's done such a bad. They drafted that kid from Georgia in the first round. He's out of the league, didn't even play.
Rough.
He's had some bad drafts, and I think all that, and like there was some issue with their strength and conditioning coach, their offensive coordinator getting arrested for the DUI. I think it was just a whole bunch of stuff, and then finally it just.
It's curious when things like that happen because it's like, everything you mentioned, like very little of that is the GM making that decision on his own. Like he's not drafting those guys without talking to Vrabel. If Vrabel had to like that guy in order to take him, I would assume.
Yeah. And there's some other issues. You know what I mean? Like with how
there has to be. I just feel like
there could be like some like inappropriate stuff going on. So I'm sure more of the story is going to come out within the next couple of days.
Yeah, it's odd timing to where it makes you think something else is going on in there too. Maybe, for all you know, maybe he just wanted out.
Yeah, he could. What is your second takeaway?
Let's see. I got to go back to my email here. I don't have it written in front of me. Second takeaway. Oh, here's going to be a good one. This should get some comments. First off, I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with me saying Denver needs to fire Hackett as soon as they can. I think this Russ Wilson thing, I mean, my thoughts on Russ. I think he's been a fraud forever, not only a fraud on the field, but a fraud human, team future all the way. That being said, they've got so much money invested in him. I think they've got to get rid of Hackett and hire somebody else to come in and try to right Russ. And if they bring somebody in next year and Russ doesn't improve significantly, buddy, I think you got to eat that money. I think you got to cut him. I know it's crazy. And I know it's a ton of money to eat. But you're going to set that franchise back a decade if you don't.
One of my buddies, his thing is the Broncos. He said the Broncos sold their soul to get that Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. And now they're just ripping it against it. I'm looking at his contract right now. So what are we? 2023, if they cut him next year, dead cap, $100 million.
Yeah, so you wait till after next year to do it is when I think it's got to go down.
After $85 million.
Yeah, it's a ton of money, but Eric, what else are you going to do? You can't keep doing what you're doing. Like those fans are awesome in Denver. They're not going to keep showing up if that's the product out of the field, right?
I mean, that emoji from Matt basically sums up Russell Wilson. They aren't. They're not going to put it. And also, like the guy from Walmart, the Walmart people, they have money. They're not going to go for this stuff. I will say this: easiest under bet I made, easiest not to make the playoff bet I made.
Oh, Kyle jinxed your bet you gave out, by the way.
What bet was that?
The no touchdowns.
Oh my God!
It's all his fault. You can call him and tell him.
How did he jinx that?
So Baltimore got the ball back.
Yeah.
Right on that final drive where they scored the touchdown. And my phone rings and it's Kyle. And I don't even know that he's watching. He can't be watching the game because he has no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And he's like, Eric gave out no touchdowns in that game at 100-1. And like the next play, they were on the 2-yard line. And I'm like, well, you just jinxed that. They're on the 2-yard line with 30 seconds to go. And he's like, you're kidding me. And I'm like, nope. And there's the touchdown. And he's like, and I'm like, and I'm going to tell Eric, you jinxed the hell out of that bet.
I mean, it was a $25 bet. We were talking it out on the show. And those that, don't know, myself, Kyle, and Gino do a show for BTV every Sunday, 11 a.m., where you go game by game. We're just talking about the games and everything. And, it's just one of those things.
Do you see that comment by Reed? Bring that up. Do you know what this is about? Because I do.
Why do you tell everybody?
So there's a guy on Twitter, and I don't know his name. I don't have it right in front of me. At the beginning of the season, he pointed out that Russell Wilson has 12 bathrooms in his house. And since like week 2 or 3, he's been like making a graph showing how many bathrooms Russell Wilson has in his house compared to his touchdown passes. And he now has to throw an average of 1 touchdown pass per game in order to tie the amount of bathrooms he has in his house.
That's pretty funny, dude.
It's great. And dude, every week he puts it out, and it's got a little face of Russell Wilson with this line graph, and then just the toilets are just going straight across.
Dude, that's pretty funny. I had no idea about that. Hackett sucks, dude. He's never called plays before, and it's everything's kind of showing. It's just an absolute train wreck. And it's going to be interesting to see who they get, because I've heard that if the Chargers don't make the playoffs, they're going all in on Sean Payton. And I don't know who else could command the respect from Wilson besides Sean Payton.
Yeah. And that's kind of my thing too. Like, I don't know, man. It's just, he's so bad. And I know there's people pointing out that, like, you know, when he was with Seattle, Pete Carroll had him rolling out of the pocket a lot, but it seems like Hackett's tried to do that these last few weeks. It just doesn't matter. Like, I don't know what it is, man. I don't know if he's playing hurt or has been playing hurt or what. Like, he's not what he was. And again, like, I just get it just, he's off-putting to me with the whole, like, oh, I did high knees and watched film while everybody else slept on the plane to London. Like, to me, that threw the whole other team under the bus. Like, nobody else cared about the game and wasn't watching film. I was doing this. And, you know, we do the Thursday show with Jermaine Wiggins, former NFL player, Super Bowl champion, big Patriots guy. And he said, man, that stuff wears thin in the locker room. And I think that's why Seattle wanted him out. I don't think guys like DK Metcalf really vibed with him. And now he's in a new locker room. And instead of winning them over, he's all dangerous sandwiches from Subway. And what's that, Mr. Invincible or Infinity or whatever that nonsense is. He's just, ever since he got remarried and he said he and Sierra were re-virginizing themselves, that was when I was like, dude, you've lost your mind.
He's a weird dude. He's a real weird dude. And then there's that story that he got Gordon cut because Gordon was bumping Future in the locker room.
By the way, Melvin Gordon became my favorite player. If that's true, my favorite player in the NFL right now is Melvin Gordon, because that is the biggest troll move ever, and he deserves every bit of it. I'm sorry.
My second takeaway is this. I'm betting the Fins not to make the playoffs at plus 450. The Fins have the 9th hardest schedule remaining, with games versus the Bills, Jets, Chargers, Patriots, and Packers. That's only one game against a team with a losing record. Bills, Jets, Patriots, and Chargers have a pass rush. We saw how much Tua struggled last week against the 49ers defense when he was missing his 2 tackles in Armstead and Jackson. I think the Dolphins are going to limp to the finish. Even a team like the Packers can take advantage of the issues that the Dolphins have in the back four. You know, we got the Giants a couple weeks ago at plus 300 not to make the playoffs. I'm really liking this bet of the Dolphins not to make the playoffs at plus 450.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it happening, and I would love nothing more than the Dolphins not to make the playoffs, just because some of our resident Dolphin fans can eat it. But, you know, they're sitting 8-4. What do you think it's going to take to get in on a wild card? 11
and 6 is tough. The AFC is loaded, man. I mean, I think it's going to come down. I really think this Chargers Dolphins game is a play-in game, and whoever wins this is going to get that spot.
I mean, yeah, and Miami doesn't hold a tiebreaker over anybody. They sit in 6th. I mean, I guess it just depends on Mike White and the Jets. And again, this playing game, like you said, I'm not buying New England. I don't buy them at all. And I don't see anybody like Vegas coming and catching it. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be close. What's the number on that?
Plus 450.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth a shot.
I mean, shoot or shoot, dude. You know, and these, but that's like this. These are low risk.
But again, man, we've talked about this before too. It's like even when Tua's playing good, I mean that defense isn't good. I'm sorry, it's not. They're going to give up points. So, yeah, if they lose to the Chargers this week, you've gotten a great value. I think that number drops.
That number's going to drop. I mean, like right now, the Giants are like, money, not our plus money to make the playoffs. Shocker, what happens when Tua doesn't play a bottom 5 defense? Completely agree with that.
Yeah, what is it? Is Uncle Rico a Tua hater?
I do hate Tua. I mean, the first thing Gino and I did, Gino couldn't believe me because I went on this huge thing with his draft preview why I thought Tua sucked and why I thought.
All right, well, let me play devil's advocate for you for a minute because I don't love Tua. He is what he is. I'm glad Joe Burrow emerged because that year started tank for Tua, and I'm glad Burrow kind of rose to the top so we could take him instead of Tua. Tua's first year in the league, he's got a coach that clearly was in over his head, and I don't think he was doing much, kind of like a Trevor Lawrence with Urban Meyer. Like, I don't know that he was developing much. I almost look at this season as his rookie year. He's finally got a quarterback coach. And I think I would find it hard pressed for you to say he's playing worse than he did before. I think he is playing better. He's not there yet, but he's playing like a rookie right now. And I know he's been two in a couple of years. I think we got to wait a couple more years under McDaniel before we can really say Tua the worst, because I think he's headed down that road. I think he's a poor man's Lamar Jackson, to be honest.
I looked at it like this. Do you want the 2 quarterbacks that are over 6 foot with strong arms?
Well, yeah.
Right-handed, like Burrow and Herbert in that draft class? Or do you want the slow quarterback under 6 feet tall who's left-handed? And like for me, it's a big deal because like when you're left-handed versus right-handed, the tackle's responsibilities are completely inverted then. So and the ball comes out differently. I don't know. Like I was just higher on Burrow, Herbert, and Love. I had 2.
Yeah, I mean the lefty thing. I've never been a fan of lefty quarterbacks, even though the Bengals had one that led them to a couple Super Bowls. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. I'm glad you brought up Herbert though, because what's your real thoughts on him right now?
My thoughts on Herbert are this. His wide receivers are brutal. They get no separation. He has to rely on Austin Eckler. He's playing basically with a whole different offensive line than that started the season. And Joe Lombardi is struggling calling plays right now. Their first call, I think they average like 2.875 yards per play on the first down.
Yeah.
Their first down play calling is putrid. I think it's amazing what he's able to do with the situation and the weapons that he has around him.
Yeah, and I agree. I think he's got a tremendous amount of talent. But, last year the narrative was that he was better than Joe Burrow and the Bengals should have took him instead of Burrow. I think that's ludicrous. And I'm a Bengals fan. I know, I get it. But if you're drafting right now, as they are today, and you're at the quarterback position and you can take Herbert or Burrow, who are you taking?
I'm taking Burrow, dude. Okay. I'll be the first to admit, dude, I have an utter man crush on Joe Burrow.
Well, I mean, how could you not? I mean, he's handsome. He's cool. Dude, there's so much. He's just so cool all the time.
I mean, he's phenomenal.
Zach Taylor said at the end of that game, that 3rd and 11 play, they called timeout, or I guess it was a 2-minute warning. So they went to the sideline, and Zach Taylor had 3 plays. 2 of them were run plays. 1 was a pass play, and they couldn't figure it out. And he's just like, you know what, Joe? We trust you. Go win us a football game. And he's like, you take whichever one of these 3 plays you want. And Burrow got to the huddle and said, guys, we got 2 running plays and a pass play. What do you all think? And they said, pass. And he goes, good, because that's what we're doing anyway. Get ready to catch the ball, And, I mean, I love that.
I mean, this is a stat I found that blew my mind against Herbert. I gave it out last week in the BTV show. 12, 30, and 2. That's 28.6% ATS against the number in the second half. 3 and 9 this year, ATS against the number in the second half. That's really bad. That is insanely bad.
I think that other quarterback, the team he plays for, is the best against the spread in the NFL right now.
Yeah, they could be. They easily could be. Brian, what's your third takeaway, my man?
Third takeaway, we're going to have a little talk about Jeff Saturday. I think you probably talked about this on the show already, and I'm not going to get into the whole, whether he should have been hired and should they have given other people a shot, and the whole they didn't interview minorities, they had Reggie Wayne. That's not here. This is exactly why you don't hire your drinking buddy. Okay, they got that first win. That first week out, they got the Raiders. They got that first win. Everybody's like, oh, see, you don't need experience. You can do this and that. So then, was it last week, they ended the time management at the end of the game, I guess not just the game Sunday, but the game before that. Matt Ryan dives for a first down. He was untouched. And in the NFL, if you start a slide, it stops at the point you start your slide. If you dive, you get all the yards you get. He dove. He wasn't touched until he was across the line. They had 3 timeouts. There was 30 seconds left, and they were right around the 20-yard line. Why are we not calling timeout and letting the booth have a look at it? Because instead, you rush a 4th down play out there, and you lose a game. That's inexperience. That's why you don't hire your drinking buddy to do this. This week against the Cowboys, that 4th quarter is what I see 12-year-olds do on Madden. They get down a score in the 4th quarter. They turn the ball over. Next thing you know, it's a 2-score game. And then they're like, to hell with everything. We're going to try to score on every play. And they get blown right off the field.
I'm not going to lie. I was tired as hell on Sunday. It was a 2-point game. I went to bed. I was like, dude, my plus 11.5 is bunny. That's how I was thinking. I woke up. I had to do a double take at the score. I was like, what the hell happened? Yeah, Saturday sucks. The first game, he gave the ball to John
Taylor.
And
they haven't since. What are we doing?
I just don't know what's going on. I think it's kind of showing that he's not really ready for this. I'm sick of ties in the NFL. Should we fix that? I think we have 2 already this year. Do we need to change the rules?
I'm glad that's brought up right in the middle of the World Cup, because I see all you NFL fans talking shit about soccer saying, I can't watch a sport that ends in a tie, and then you get one this Sunday, so all you all can eat it for that. I don't know. First off, is this the first year or second year they changed it from 15 minutes to 10?
This is like the second or third year.
I feel like we've gotten more ties in that scenario because of that. I mean, I hate them too. I mean, let's be honest. In football, football's not supposed to end in a tie. Soccer's a different story. Soccer, they may have to play for 6.5 hours, and that's just impossible.
Yeah, it's a completely different sport.
In football, and those guys have all run a marathon during the game, and you're going to ask them to play another 2 hours? No, that's ridiculous. Yeah. I would like to see games not end in a tie. I don't know the perfect thing for that. But I heard a very hilarious, and it's so ridiculous, it almost makes a little sense. They said when it happens between division opponents, the winner of the other game gets both wins.
Wow, that's a little weird.
So, for instance, the Commanders' next game is against the Giants.
Yeah,
they have a bye week.
Yeah, the Giants play the Eagles and the Commanders. Commanders have a bye week.
So in 2 weeks, we could be talking about a game that was worth 2 wins.
Yeah.
It would be the most important game of the year.
Yeah.
Because it's actually going to be 2 games in one. Now, again, that's absolutely ridiculous. It'll never happen, but it's just food for thought. I don't think you could do it like the college. Do you?
No, there's no way. The only thing I was able to come up with, and this was last year's thing, and I really think you can only apply it to playoffs because it would change the way I feel the end of the game would be played, is the team with the home field advantage gets the ball first. So that way you're rewarding the team with the better record. Okay, so let's say the Bengals and the Chiefs tie. Bengals would get the ball to start the overtime period. I think that would force teams to probably go for two, probably play the game a little bit differently because you wouldn't have that random coin flip. They would be playing to win the game instead of playing for the tie.
Or maybe play the full 10 minutes and just whoever's ahead at the end, like instead of it being a first, because I think there's different strategy for that too. Like, when you see a team punt with a minute to go in overtime, you go, oh God, like,
yeah, you're playing.
Like, what are we doing here? In the playoffs, I think they should just play another quarter or whatever.
Yeah, like another 15.
You play. I don't think. Well, of course, I guess they would keep playing in that scenario, but a field goal winning it just doesn't feel right. But there's not that many better solutions out there for it, right? Like,
there's really no solutions, and it sucks because ties absolutely
maybe go 7-on-7. I mean, like, I always talk about penalty kicks in soccer being a terrible way to end a game that you're running around with so much strategy for so long and you really come down. It would be like a basketball game. Instead of going to overtime, you have a free throw contest.
Yeah.
What do you do? Just get a field goal contest out there? I don't know what you do.
I don't know. There's got to be some solution that no one's thought of. There's a lot of smart people in the world. I'm sure someone will think us up.
Yeah, well, I mean, the NFL's been around forever, and this is what we've got. I mean, like,
my third take. Oh, Reed, do the college 2 point off. I don't like that at all.
I got to tell you, as a gambler,
that would drive me crazy.
That rule has made me so angry.
It's changed the number. Like, you want 2.5 now in college because those college OT rules.
We've wanted for so long games to go to overtime to hit those overs.
Yeah.
And now it's like it doesn't even matter. It's just 2 points at a time.
Yeah.
That's it. It's one play. Again, that's like a penalty kick to me. Like, just let them play from the 25 until there's a winner. I'm sorry. Maybe there is 7 overtimes, but you know what? At the end of the game, whoever won, you feel like, you know what?
You have a winner.
They deserved it.
My third takeaway, NFC's bad. NFC's really bad. Eagles 11-1, can't stop the run. The offense hasn't looked good since that tight end. Dallas has gone down. Vikings 10-2, 20th in team DVOA. Niners 8-4. They're starting their third string quarterback. Bucks 6-6. 42-year-old quarterback with a bad offensive line. Defense is insanely beat up. Cowboys, can you really trust McCarthy after what happened last year? Great pass rush. Can't stop the run to save their lives. So how can we trust them to stop an Eagles team or the 49ers? Giants, Daniel Jones, enough said. Seahawks, Geno Smith, enough said. Look, all those teams had issues. I'm not going to lie. I can't see either one of them beating an AFC team. The only one I could see is the Eagles, but that's only if Jordan Davis comes back and they're able to stop the run with Sue and Joseph. If they can't stop the run, they have no shot. I think right now, barring unless Mahomes, Burrow, like someone like that goes down, like it's I don't think the AFC losing the Super Bowl.
No, I think you're right, man. I mean, I think the NFC is just atrocious. The Eagles, I mean, and the Cowboys have flashes, but then they have games where they don't show up. They're a real tough team, and they're going to blow in the playoffs. I mean, everybody's all over what's his name, Diggs, and look, I understand he has this flair for interceptions. I mean, it's got to drive coaches nuts in film room as much as he tries to jump routes and gets burned. You never see, they don't show that on SportsCenter all the time. They show you those routes he jumps and picks the ball off. But, I mean, he had one this past weekend where he tried to jump a route and Matt Ryan burned him. Good quarterbacks are going to burn that. The Eagles are good, but I guess if anybody was going to do it, it would be the Eagles, and I think it would have to be like an Eagles-Bills game. Like, I think if it's Eagles-Bills, I'd give the Eagles a slight chance there. I still think the Bills would be the favorite and should be the favorite. But, like, the Bengals, even if you can stop Joe Mixon when God willing, he's back from his concussion by then, if they're in it, there's not a secondary in football that can cover that group of receivers. Like, they're going to find ways to get the ball. So, like, the Bengals would resort to just throwing screen passes and running with Jamar Chase from the outside instead of mixing up the middle. So, yeah, I think the AFC is much stronger. The NFC is so bad. In fact, football as a whole is down. Because, I mean, if you want me to be honest with you, I think there's 3 teams that are head and shoulders above everybody else in this league. And
they're all in the AFC.
They're all in the AFC. And there's horrible teams in the AFC. We have full horrible divisions. Yeah. I mean, and they're both the South divisions, right? NFC and AFC.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal.
Like the NFC South, we were talking about Tom Brady last night and like where he may go if he leaves the Bucs. And it's like, well, he probably wants to stay in the NFC because that's the only shot he's got at making a Super Bowl, because Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow are going to have that Super Bowl locked down for a while. And I love it because they're all young. None of those teams are going to let those guys go. And we could have, instead of the Manning Brady, we're going to get Allen, Mahomes, and Burrow for a long time, and it's going to be really fun to watch.
Late to the show, can the Niners D get them to the NFC Championship? That's what's going to have to get them to the NFC Championship.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, with Purdy as your quarterback, yeah, I mean, the Niners defense is their best unit right now. Now that they're hurt, if they had Jimmy G, I would consider them to have a chance to make the Super Bowl. And with that defense in the Super Bowl, who knows? But again, it's going to be tough sledding now, man.
Yeah, I mean, I am sitting on a juicy. I think I got them at 35 or 40-1 to win it for the Eagles, and I've never felt more worried about it in my life.
Yeah.
We reached that time, Bobby. Let's make some money. What's your first bet? We're going to lock in 3 bets. What is your first bet?
I'm going to go crazy here. I'm taking the Bengals -6 against Cleveland. Obviously, Cleveland has owned Cincinnati as much as Cincinnati's owned the Chiefs since Burrow's been there. But, like, something about this feels different. It's just like the Bengals, they know they haven't beat the Browns. They know the situation they're in. If they want to come back, win this division, and potentially get a 1 or a 2 seed and get some home games in the playoffs, like, you can't lose to the Browns twice in the season. I think they're going to come out very focused with a very good game plan and just lay the absolute wood to Cleveland.
Little revenge from getting blown out earlier, as NAA86 points out. My first bet, I locked this one in. Jags +3.5. I say it every week. There's certain coaches I like to take as dogs. Others I fade as favorites. Top of that list, my boy Vrabel, 48% ATS is a favorite. Another one of the angles I've started using, and I found this one really interesting. Ever since Sirianni has started to coach the Eagles and establish that physical type running style, teams that have played the Eagles the next week are 38% ATS. So the way to think about it is, after teams have played Bama with those physical deep lines, they're a little bit.
I know all about that.
They're a little bit beat up. Then looking at the Jags, gambling is all about buying low, selling high. Last week, we sold on the Jags on this program because the market overvalued them, and they got manhandled by the Lions, losing by 30 points. Teams after losing by 30 points or more, 56% ATS the following week. Teams that are dogs after losing by 30% or more are 60% ATS. The strength of the Jags defense is stopping the run. They're 13th DVOA against the run, so I think they'll be able to limit Henry. Titans passing offense isn't the same without Burks. Burks went down with that injury where he got hit after scoring that touchdown. I think they're going to struggle, the Titans offensively. Plus, the Titans struggle defending the pass, 22nd DVOA. So I think the Jags are going to be able to move the ball.
Yeah, I like that. I saw that was one of your plays. I was trying to make sure I didn't copy over them, but I do like that play a lot. I think the Titans are in big trouble here. Like,
yeah, I think they're gonna. They wouldn't.
I don't think they can miss the playoffs because the division's so bad.
But okay, I'm gonna look at something. What, and then I'm gonna ask you a question. What is your second bet?
Oh, all right. My second bet. All right, Broncos country. Let's ride. Straight to the window with the sports book after the Chiefs manhandle your team on the road this week. I know this is a big number, Eric. I don't like to play a number like -9 ever, especially with teams on the road. But there is nothing about this Broncos team that tells me they can score enough points to stay within 9. We're talking about a team that just scored. Would they have 9 points last week?
Yeah, we can't score at all.
You're getting Kansas City off a loss. They're going to be super focused. Kelsey's going to be mad about the game. The defense didn't play horrible. It's just they played the Bengals. So again, it's one of those things. It's less about how good the Chiefs are and that they're on the road and all that. And it's more about, I just don't think the Broncos can score enough to cover the line.
Yeah, I don't know how the Broncos are going to score. Chiefs are going to be pissed off, so I could easily see them happening.
Brandon, I don't want to hear about Kyle Busch. You can eat it, buddy.
Brandon chiming in.
That dude's out. He's out. You'll never hear me talk about him again. He's dead to me.
This is my question to you. And I know do we take a shot with the Jaguars winning the South? Because they do have 2 games against the Titans. Titans have games against the Cowboys, Chargers, 2 against the Jags, and then 1 against Houston. The Jaguars have Jaguars is a little tough. They have 1 against Houston, 1 against Dallas, 2 against the Titans, and then 1 against the Jets. Just my thought process is that's 2 games they can make up.
Yeah, but they got to make up 3, right?
Yeah, they got to make up 3. You know what I mean? But crazier things have happened, though.
Yeah, I mean.
And it's not like you hit the nail on the head. It's not like the Titans are like flipping world beaters.
Well, they just can't score either.
You know what I mean? They struggle against the pass. It's a passing league.
Okay, so let's say the Jags win this week. That puts them 2 games back. The Chargers at home should beat them. Then they got the Texans. That's going to be a win. Cowboys can beat them. I mean, it could come down to week 18 with the division on the line.
And I'm pulling it up right now. See, they're 9-1. I would want 10-1.
Yeah, I'd need more.
9-1 is a little bit too low for me. 9-1 is a little bit too low.
But the problem is if they lose this week, you can't make the bet. And if they win this week, that number is going to go way down.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Kelsey, 3 TDs.
I hope so for my fantasy team.
My second bet, back to the Chargers. Who are the Dolphins to be laying points on the road? Tua is only 43%. ATS is a road favorite. Road games in general, 46%. I know that the Dolphins offense is designed to get the ball to Tua's hands fast, but without Jackson and Armstead last week, he struggled. The weakness of the Chargers defense is defending the run, not the pass. So I think the Fins will struggle to move the ball in this matchup. Flip side, Herbert, 63% ATS is a dog. Chargers like to throw the ball. Great matchup as the Fins are 23rd DVOA defending the pass. Brian and I mentioned before, their back 4 is really struggling. Plus, they really struggle defending the running back in the passing game. Shaping up to be an Austin Eckler game. 2 on the Dolphins. They beat up, as Reed mentioned, the bottom half of the league. Now they're starting to play the thick part of their schedule. They're playing a desperate team that needs to win, getting points at home. I like the Chargers plus the 3. I think the Chargers straight up win the game.
Yeah, and one thing, and I know that you guys may not look at this as much as I do because I use this more in baseball than I do football, but I love run differential. Just looking at that, engaging if a team is really as good as they say they are. If you don't know, I'm going to ask you right now, guess what their point differential is on the season?
Which team?
The Dolphins.
Point differential.
Like points for against their points against.
Points for, points against. I'm going to say -15.
Well, it's not that bad. It's +10. But that being said, Buffalo +124, the Jets +29, New England +23,
yeah,
Baltimore's +49, Cincinnati's +57, Kansas City's +80. They have by far the lowest point differential from any. So they're on the road, which they're 3-3 straight up. Their point difference, that defense is going to kill them, man. I'm telling you right now. I like where your head's at on that one too.
And this just shapes up for those who don't know. One of the biggest things I use is the Pythagorean win total, where it basically just looks at games played, points for, points against. So Dolphins are definitely going to be a team I look to fade next year. Third and final bet, Brian. What are you looking at, my man?
I know you talked about Geno Smith and the Seahawks and how bad the NFC is, but I'm going to lay that 3.5 this week with them, man. I'd like to play the West Coast going to the East Coast and playing against the West Coast team more, but I mean, are you buying this Panthers team really? I mean, like Geno Smith's done enough to. I mean, they're in second place in their division. They're in their game out. He doesn't turn it over a ton. He's doing just enough to get the job done. I mean, I just don't see a world where Carolina. I know they've had, every now and then they throw this game out there, but what are we doing here? Like, I think Seattle has better players on both sides of the ball. They're only laying 3.5. They're at home. That the 12th man in that place, again, one of the hardest places to play. They're kind of excited. They're right into the playoff race. So it's kind of a must win for them. They can't lose to the Panthers here. I think 3.5 is too low on this.
Yeah, I see it. I think the Panthers are just going to kind of go through the motions. I think they want to get some high draft pick. Is Dino buying a Baker's Ram jersey? I tweeted this to Gino earlier today, and
I kind of want to call him and just ask him on the air.
My third and final bet. Now, in our pre-show talk, I initially had the Lions earlier this morning at the money line at -115. That line's jumped all the way up. Lions, they're laying 2.5, 3 now, so I'm going in a different direction because you can't get that. And this one is absolutely disgusting. And I love doing the stuff like this. Houston Texans +17. Texans suck. I know. The number, it's just way too high. I wouldn't be surprised if it actually gets a little higher. I say it every week. I even said it earlier today. Buying low, selling high. Cowboys just won by 35 points on Sunday Night Football against the Indianapolis Colts. Teams that won by 35 or more the previous week, 41% ATS. Teams that won by 35 or more, laying 10 points or more, 38%. What does that mean? They're overvalued in the market. The number's inflated. Texans, 7-game losing streak. Teams on a 7-game losing streak. Road Dogs, 63% ATS. Teams on a 7-game losing streak, getting 10 points or more, 62% ATS. Teams have had success running the ball on the Cowboys this year. I think the Texans are going to lean on Pierce. Heavy run game with Dameon Pierce. And in these high numbers, we've seen it. You need 1,000,002 things to go right to cover a big number. So I'm going to lock in the Texans. I'm going to wait, though. I have a notification set up. If it starts dropping to 16.5, I'll lock it in at 17 on some books. But I think this could actually continue to rise just because the Cowboys are always such an overbet team.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all either. I mean, and this feels like the kind of game that they let their foot off the gas a little bit, which they're known to do.
Yep.
And even if they get a big lead, they may just start running the ball and eating clock. And I mean, I don't know when we started doing these 17-point spreads in the NFL. I feel like in the past decade, there was never any. In this last couple of years, it's like every week there's this ludicrous thing. Like, again, I'm calling for contraction in the NFL instead of expansion. We need to contract because some of these teams don't deserve to be out on the field, and the Texans are one of them.
Yeah, Texans are brutal. Brian, I'd like to thank you for coming on. Great show. A lot of interaction in the chat room. Appreciate all you guys for the comments. Make sure to check Brian out. He is live on BTV on Thursday night with the Happy Hour football show. You guys go through the football week. Great show to make sure to check that out. I believe that comes out at 7 p.m.
Yep.
7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure to check that out. Next week's guest is probably the guy on Twitter that's a bigger Lions homer than I am. The one and only Detroit Pierce. Great dude. Knows his stuff. Huge Detroit sports fan. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Until next week, boys and girls.